system unfolding. Military science fiction podcast. Untold stories every Wednesday. Military science fiction podcast. Discussion, interviews, reviews, and rants. Military science fiction podcast.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Today we have a special guest who has joined us and is going to provide us with, some good ground-based input. Today you've got Jeff and I think that we're probably, the biggest gamers. I mean, Rick will talk about that he played one game back in 1996 or something and then sort of scoffs at the whole
Rick is
idea.
very much not a gamer, which is
Yeah.
okay. So this is more like a special episode,
A special
with a
episode.
special message, for gamers,
Yeah.
And it seems like most of our audience are also gamers, which is not a surprise because people who tend to read a lot also tend to like playing video games.
Yep. And that's what we wanted to talk about was MILSF or video games that have influenced MILSF or back and forth or what makes a good, MILSF game. I mean, we even before this, we're getting into is Warhammer MILSF? Is it not? Could you have military, are there more squad-based fantasy games? I haven't played them, but they might be out there. So I don't know, to start off with, Jeff, do you want to, I know you're really excited about Menace. So why don't you talk about Menace to start with, and then we can go
All
from
right.
there.
So, full disclosure, I've been in contact with Overhype Studios, the people who make Menace, and they were very excited to share this when we're done. So, but however, we're not being paid or anything like that. I bought my own copy of Menace. I've been following the development of it for about a year, and I was kind of hoping it would be what I wanted it to be, which was a sort of an XCOM-like squad-based tactical game, and it came out to be so much more. It's more like Men of War, Assault Squad, but in an Aliens/Terminator style universe. And it's just, it's really good MIL-SF. You have your own ship, your own spaceship, you're in a system, you're trying to put down rebels and fight aliens. I'm pretty sure there's some Terminators involved at some point. There's politics involved. The depth of the game is really surprising. I'm so tired of modern games where you play them for 5 minutes and you've got it all. There's no more surprises. And I was playing Menace, and if I'm skilled enough, I'll try to cut in some screenshots or some gameplay here. When I was playing Menace, you get a vehicle, and it's turn-based, so you tell your squad what to do, and they do it. And I was playing with this. I had this vehicle, and I was out of ammo on the vehicle, and there was an enemy squad up ahead. They were only a couple squares away, and I wish I could run them over. And no sooner did I say that, the little icon appeared next to the vehicle to let me run them over. And it was that was really exciting because, that's kind of like a thing you do with armored vehicles is you run people down. And so it's really just, I haven't finished the game, so I'm not comfortable giving a full review, but I'm going to finish it. And at this point, I'm 10 hours in, and you're kind of like reading a book. They may biff the ending, but I'll have so much enjoyment between now and then it won't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a really good game. I highly recommend it. If you liked XCOM, if you liked any of the tactics games, any real-time strategies that were more militaristic, more not scientific, but more realistic, you'll really like it. I wholeheartedly endorse Menace. If I get the opportunity, we might even give away some keys if we have some to our listeners.
That would be awesome. Yeah. When Jeff told me about it, I wasn't following it, so I've had the game for all of one day, and I was able to play. I was able to play for about an hour and a half, and it's deep. They got some pretty awesome cinematics to start it out, but then as soon as you bump into you really should play the tutorial, and probably there's already a bunch of great YouTube videos out there of people having fun with it. But it's the depth you can go to on building out the squad, having to make choices between the squad, but then each of the squad members basically represent, squaddies, other people, and they've got different skills that they can share with other members of the squad that they can use to inspire people, that they can, the development path. I feel like this is a game that would have a lot of replay value, just even from what I've seen so far. And I saw some people describe it as a roguelite. I mean, it appears there's a campaign, but it looked like you could replay different missions using a different loadout.
There's
Um,
actually is I discovered this by accident. There's actually the campaigns are branching, and
okay.
I'm not 100% sure what the definition of roguelite is because I don't really play like Dark Souls or anything. But
Oh, well,
um, the the
oh,
there's different factions you can do missions for, and whichever ones you do first kind of determines the campaign.
mhm. Well,
Kind of
I'll
determines the campaign.
I'll take this opportunity to talk about what a roguelite is. So way back in the day, like if you played, did you ever play like the IBM MS-DOS version of D&D? Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and so there was a game called Rogue that was kind of like that, which would have a procedurally generated dungeon. It it was also called Hack. When I first had it, it was called Hack. And so the whole idea was that you could play it and you never know what you're going to get when you play. And I played that game for like probably a year when I was maybe 12 or something until I finally figured out that I don't know that you can win. Like you just start playing, go into it, and then try to get as much loot as you can. And so this whole genre is like basically procedurally generated, or every time you go drop into the game, you know, you get a new, it's kind of the same scenario, but you play it over and over again. And sometimes they build on each other, and sometimes I mean, probably my most favorite one was by oh shoot, Arcane, the follow-on to it was called Moon. Ah, dang it. I say this and I don't look it up. Like basically they had a whole game set in a spaceship, Prey. And so it's like basically you're on a moon base in that Prey setting, but you have to play through it over and over again, and then it's iterative. So you got to pick up like you play different characters and you pick up different items through each playthrough in order to get the characters when they die. You find the next one, you find their corpse, loot it, and then you can move on to another part of the. So it's like you're playing it over and over again, responding to changes in the scenario. But that one was a lot of fun. So I I don't think I've seen a straight up military one. This would be the only one I think I've seen that is kind of, strategy based, real time. Well, this isn't a real time RPG, but that strategy RPG,
Turn based.
yeah, turn based.
Yeah. I really
Um,
like it because it takes a lot of factors involved, like
yeah,
flanking and armor and
yeah, the
you
military
know,
movement's really,
yeah. And like a lot of games will just okay, your weapon does X amount of damage, and no matter what you're shooting, it's going to do some damage. But this game takes an armor into account and penetration and all that stuff.
yeah,
One
yeah.
second,
It's
James. Just one second. I'll edit this out. One second.
oh no worries. And I will enjoy my coffee.
They were all playing peacefully until I decided I wanted to do a podcast.
Exactly.
Okay, so in the great thing about Menace 2 is I haven't seen a lot of other games like this. Obviously, I've played a lot of turn-based tactical strategy games like XCOM 2, both old ones and new ones.
Hmm.
There's several. Um, Xenonauts is another one that does this kind of a similar to XCOM. You know, the Fallout Tactics series was
Oh
like
yeah,
series
yeah.
the one.
Hmm.
Um, what was the military one that I was really into it? Jagged Alliance is another
Oh,
that did
I haven't heard of
this.
that one. Okay.
Oh, Jagged Alliance is gold.
Yeah.
But this is the first one I've seen where it's more of a both strategic and tactical challenge with squads as opposed to just individual units
Hmm.
and vehicles too on top of that, which and the vehicles are very reminiscent of aliens. I mean, the drop ship that drops you off at the beginning of the missions is a lot like aliens. So, lest I wax poetically about this game for too long, I'm just going to say I give it 2 thumbs up, and I absolutely recommend you buy it. It is early access. I have a higher tolerance for early access than most people I have found. There are some bugs in it. You will run into them. There's an easy bug report system to put it in.
F7.
Yeah. So if you're okay with early access and you're okay with some bugs because you want the enjoyment of the game now and you want to help shape its development and you want to support the developers, by all means, get it. If you really hate early access games for whatever reason, then obviously, if you're a vegan, I'm not going to tell you to go eat a cheeseburger, no matter how good the cheeseburger is. So the my recommendation though is buy it.
Mhm.
It's a lot of fun and it's good and it's $29.99. So even if you get like 30 hours of enjoyment out of it, that's $1 an hour for entertainment, and that's better than movies or not better than books. You should buy my books, but better than movies
Yep.
and TV shows.
I mean, I felt it was pretty polished. I guess, I mean, I haven't hit bugs
It
yet,
is.
but yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I've run into a couple bugs, but I mean, like nothing that ruined my enjoyment of it.
Hmm.
Uh, and I've run into bugs in polished, finished gold games. So, and they've already released a hotfix for one major bug, and they released a mini patch for some others. So they're obviously actively developing the game. And having talked to them just a little bit, they seem like really genuinely good folks who are passionate about the game, which I can tell. You can
Hmm.
tell when someone loves the game, that loves what they're doing, because it shows in the game. It shows how good and how deep the game is. So
Well, yeah, the game mechanics are, that's the thing. Like, I guess this feels like the kind of game that people will play for a long time and get into the, like, if you do find variances or how the weightings are off in different skills trees, or, I'd be curious to hear how that's going to turn out because it's obvious they put a lot of time into that. So,
my
um,
hope is, my genuine hope is that they continue to support the game past the 1.0, because from what I can tell, it would be really easy to just add new planets and new missions, you know, on top of what's already there,
mhm.
continuing through the end game, and allow you to continue to explore new things and have new, without it being a tremendous, the groundwork's already done, right? You would need a
Yeah.
tremendous amount of new development done. Not to talk about new mechanics. You could launch new characters and new vehicles, and it would all be really easy to support. So having said that, obviously by Menace, Overhyped Studios, they're on Discord, they're really cool, and based on the amount of people who are on their Discord, I'm thinking the game's selling pretty good.
That's
But
awesome.
having said that, that's my game of the year so far right now. What is one, old or new, that strikes you, James, with military sci-fi?
So, I mean, going back, I go all the way back to like Marathon Damage Incorporated, Command and Conquer, Red Alert is what I've played a lot of. Played a lot of those. Most recently, I mean, I'm not going to call it military sci-fi. I played a lot of Doom. Like, I'm much more into FPS. So anything that combines FPS with military elements is what I get excited about. Mass Effect, like the squad base, I enjoyed the squad based stuff a lot in Mass Effect because it combined the two things that I like. If anything, like I know a lot of people love the storytelling in Mass Effect. I really just wanted to get back into the gunfights, and and figure out how I was going
I
to attack an
I
objective.
do love the gunfights, and I was
Yeah.
very much a Tally and Garen. That was my combo. Was Tally and
Hmm.
Garen. I absolutely loved Tally's accent, so I loved hearing her talk. But
Yeah.
yeah, Mass Effect is definitely top tier military sci-fi. You're in the military. It's about how the technology and the aliens affect you. There's some pseudo magic in it with the Asari abilities and stuff
Hmm.
like that, and the Element X. But not so much that it borders on, it breaks physics in the sense that
Hmm.
there's no teleportation or anything like that when it comes to the Asari abilities. So um, it's a fine line. I can't tell you where it is, but there's a fine line between, oh hey, they have some unique abilities that allow them to do things that you can't normally do because of this mysterious science, mysterious element.
Yeah.
And straight up, I summoned the god of the elves, the Eldar, to come and destroy you.
Well, even Halo, I love Halo, and even I played so much of Marathon, the precursor to Halo. I kind of lost the plot on later Halo, especially when it became Xbox exclusive because I couldn't I didn't have an Xbox. But I just love everything. For me, it's about weapons loadout. It's about like planning an objective, how you're going to hit the objective. If you've got different, when you're building out the skill tree on a character, um, a big game I've enjoyed, well, not a big game, but a game I've enjoyed a lot is Deus Ex Machina. It's a mech based. You're almost like a kaiju fighting in a city, and
Wait,
so
Deus Ex Machina? Deus Ex is a
uh,
cyberpunk game.
Damon, no, it's called Demon Ex Machina. Is that what I said?
Okay.
I'm sorry, Demon. Yeah, no, it's definitely a play on that. Um, I mean, Deus Ex Machina is not military stuff, but I do like that kind of game. But um, so I mean, I guess this is getting maybe in a little, that'd be a thing to talk about. Like there's a game that is really leaning on, squad based, combined arms, small unit tactics, and then future weapon systems like mechs, like, space combat. Like I'm thinking of what's another one I played that's basically just like a first person space shooter, EverQuest or Everspace, I think. I played that one. Um there so it kind of, for me, it goes across the spectrum. I tend to like, I'll use a game. I don't like to do other things when I'm gaming, so I don't like turn-based stuff as much. I do like turn-based. Like if I'm gonna play, I'm playing a lot on Steam Deck now. So if I can play it on Steam Deck while my wife's watching a TV show, that I do like that kind of game because then I can, lay everything out that I want to do and I can turn it off and come back to it pretty easily.
One of the things
Uh,
I love about turn-based is everybody who watches their show knows I have 6 kids,
yeah.
and you
Yep.
know, I have one of them at my feet right now, 3 of them downstairs, hopefully for a solid 30 minutes, so I can do this. The ability to just get up and walk away and do stuff is worth its weight in gold. So, I
Hmm.
mean, I play a lot of turn-based games, or I don't play until midnight, and I can't stay up till midnight because I have to get up at 5 to write. And a really good game is great because you can use it as a reward system for you.
Hmm.
Okay, I can't play until
Yeah.
I finished 8,000 or 800 words or something. 9,000.
Well, and something I was immediately thinking about when you started talking about Menace's kind of overworld is that so many aspects of building out a game, like introducing a character, introducing the player to the game, the gameplay loop, like explaining how the game works, how the overworld works, and how you can start with a limited scope and expand it. Or there's always that opening sequence where you've got all your, everything you can do and you're awesome. I mean, Menace doesn't do this, but other games do. You're awesome. You can use all the tools. You can see the whole world, and then whatever happens, they take it all away from you, and now you have to start as a newbie, working your way up. And
I
so,
think my kids just recently played Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, and
yeah.
it's like that. You
They
start
do
off
that.
like
Yeah.
super powerful, and then you have to work your way back up.
So I mean, it's almost like starting in media res, where you throw the reader right into combat or right into what's happening and then back up so you can just grab them, and show them what everything you want to do in the story and then, back it up and build up from that.
Lest you think I'm a bad parent, my adult children, my 22 and 19-year-old play it, not my 10, 7, and 4-year-old.
I didn't think the baby was playing Warhammer, so my daughter was super excited to play. Had some friends over and we played the one-page rules. They've got like a Warhammer kind of, Space Marines set. And she was so excited to roll the dice. Like that's what she wanted to do the whole time was roll the dice. She had no clue what else was going on. Like she did help us set up the table. That was fun. But no, I think for writing and telling story and also how you're building the world, like one of the things about games is that you have the opportunity to set up they have the opportunity to set up this whole world and introduce people to it. And it's kind of the same thing you're doing as a science fiction writer. And you start to see like the further you get into games, like just like Jeff was talking about with bugs in a game. I mean, bugs obviously breaking gameplay is no fun, but if you run into something in the world building that doesn't make sense or the interplay between the mechanics of the game and the world, like I get really frustrated if I feel like the designers didn't think about that, like you should have, that makes no sense. Why is that happening? So as a writer, that's the thing that I always try to think through. And as I'm thinking about this, I do almost think of worlds quite often as setting up a game. Like, do the rules make sense? Does the gear make sense? Am I overpowering something versus, the loadout the character is going to have going into a situation? Like, is it interesting when when they're fighting the bad guys? That kind of thing. And so,
Is this scene so exciting and so awesome that I can't have it and have the ending? It
yes.
happened to me recently. I was writing a book and I got to the halfway point and there was this big battle. And the resolution of that was so amazing. I was like, that has to be the end of the book. I can't have this be the middle of the book.
I in Retreat Hell, something like that happened. Like I wanted it at the midpoint, or maybe it's more like the 60% point, like a major objective happens, but it sets up
The
a lot
ambush.
of, yeah, no, it's not the ambush. That's the assault on the farm. Have you gotten to that yet in the Corsair? Yeah, so that's, I guess no spoilers for Jeff. But I mean, I wanted that to be a big set piece. I mean, I was kind of imagining a thing like you have in a game where, you'll be moving it into the objective, something happens to the squad and the player, and now exactly, you find yourself in a crash or whatever, and you got to fight your way out of that. But then afterwards, like so we get through that whole set piece, and then afterwards I wrote a scene that I was very happy with and was kind of important to me. Basically, like the platoon comes back together, right, the cut back in the on the fob, and they have a memorial ceremony for those that they lost. And the task force commander is there, everybody on down. The platoon leader, who's the main character, like he's part of the funeral detail executing um the salute. And it gives him time to think through and help process what happened and also just spend a little more time with the people that they lost. And I'm really glad I got to do that. And I hope since Jeff hasn't read it yet, I hope that it works. Because
I'm
that was
sure it will. I mean, I'm
yeah.
30% through. It's amazing so far, and yeah, I think it's going to be great. I think everybody who reads Scrims of War is going to love it, and I love the different take you have on it. Game wise, there was I love strategy and tactical games, right? I always have. There was an old 4x, which means expand, exterminate, whatever. I forget the 4x what the 4x definition was, but called Masters of Orion that I really liked. And they came out with, I think in 95 or 96, Mu 2, Masters of Orion 2. It was really, really good. That was one of my favorite. And it was very much military. I mean, like you could try negotiations or whatever, but no, you built a fleet and you smashed everybody. So I've always really liked those kinds of games. They don't have a lot of story in them. It's more about the strategy of building your empire and expanding. Story wise, like you said, Mass Effect's probably number one. The first 3 Halo games are up there, which is explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. James is clutch. Halo's right up there. And of course, as we've mentioned before, Halo, the designer of Halo, read Armor by John Stakely, and he based Halo off of that book that he read. Now, it's not a video game adaptation of the book, but the Armor is definitely based on Armor from the book. And Halo Reach is pinnacle middle sci-fi. You got a squad. There's all this stuff happening, and they're trying to survive and trying to complete their mission. Just trying to adapt to the evolving situation. So yeah, it's really, really good. Halo Reach is one of the best games I think ever made.
I can see the Flood definitely being inspired by Armor, because the feeling in Armor of just being overwhelmed by, this alien species. Although what do they call them? Ants, I think. They're basically ant-like. Like they're meaner than the Flood. But I was just thinking through, because the next games I think about is okay, Call of Duty. I have never liked Call of Duty because actually I feel like at the height of Call of Duty, I was still in the army, or I was in the army, or like I'd been out of the army, and I never liked the way the characters interacted. Like it just felt really fake to me. And so I didn't hang with those games very long. I tried to play them. I also don't play online stuff that much. So if the game had a campaign, I would try to play that. And yeah, so I can't really talk about those that much. I don't know, have you played any Call of Duty or games like
A
that?
lot actually with my son.
Yeah.
But the things we liked about Call of Duty were not the campaign.
Yeah.
Modern Warfare 1 and 2 had a really great campaign, but they were basically just a redux of the original Modern Warfare 1 and 2, so they didn't even really
I played
change
Medal of
much.
Honor. I liked Medal of Honor had a campaign. I like that.
Yeah, I like
And
Medal of
didn't they do
Honor.
a World War II one as well? I feel like I played that one
Well, the
too.
original Call of Duty was World War II.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
The first 3 or 4 Call of Duties were World War II, and it wasn't until Modern Warfare that they came out with like the modern version. And that was when they introduced Ghost and just had a really amazing story and lots of betrayal. Back in the day, like 2011, there was the big the airport scene, which shocked everybody. Where spoiler alert for a 12-year-old, 13-year-old game, you're undercover with these Russians and you go into this airport and they just open fire and kill all these civilians, and you're forced to do it along with them because if you don't, they'll kill you. Only for you to find out later on that they knew you were a spy, and yeah. So, but yeah, Modern Warfare 1 and 2 are pretty good. John and I really liked my son John and I really liked the battle royale that they did, but only when it was like when they had these trucks you could build and modify and drive around in and shoot things with, and that was a lot of fun. Sci-fi wise, I never played their Call of Duty Infinite or whatever it was, though I've seen cutscenes that seemed like it was pretty good. The big ones that I play, like shooter wise, I've really come down from shooters a lot over the last few years, just because as I'm getting older, it's getting harder to see and harder to react as fast as I used to. I used to be really, really good at the tactics, the strategy part of it. And I tried playing Battlefield 6. I was really excited for that. And it just, yeah, I'm just not there
Did
anymore.
that game have? I thought the game had issues anyway.
Not that I know of. It ran great and was
Oh,
fun.
okay.
And 10 years ago, I would have absolutely friggin' loved it.
Yeah.
But I'm just not.
I just remember a lot of people complaining about they could not play that game fast enough. A lot of people who were older were saying like, "This game is
Yeah,
too fast. I got to
yeah,
stop."
that could be it. And I don't know if that's the game or if it's me.
Yeah.
So I have certainly slowed down. I like flight simulators a lot, especially like DCS and stuff. One game you and I played in common is Cyberpunk
hmm
2077.
2077.
7, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's you could play that military sci-fi esque, because there's lots of militaristic stuff in that, and definitely a lot of technology. Though you're a freelancer, you're not really in the military. The See, military sci-fi games, though, I mean, like obviously for me, Mass Effect is the top
Hmm.
of the list. Halo Reach is the top of the list. And for me, back in the day, it was like the 19-year-old company, and you had your own mech that you had to maintain, and it was very much, even though the science of mechs is crappy,
Hmm.
um, crappy, not 100%. Like you wouldn't have a mech, and we know why. It's still very much military sci-fi, and it was a lot of politics in there too, which is to me part of military sci-fi is like the civilian leadership of the military and how they deal with it,
Yeah.
how you in the military deal with the civilian leadership who seem hell-bent on getting you killed.
I'm trying to think of a game that incorporated politics on a level like that that could like moved you between politics and combat. I don't know if that's out there.
Well,
I mean,
there aren't a ton, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
there are not a ton of deep. I was actually just watching a video the other day about how um, the one of the problems in gaming right now is that all the games are feeling the same.
Hmm.
And you know, yeah, sure they have splashy effects, but every game has splashy effects, and there's all they all feel the same in how they present and how they play, and I think a lot of it has to do with, and this is why I think indie gaming is on the rise. It has a lot to do with the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
You would never have a AAA studio make Menace this year. 20 years ago, sure. Like I played a game called Crusader back in the 90s.
Hmm.
Origin made it back when Chris Roberts was still in charge, and it was an action RPG where you played a Master Chief esque figure, fighting corporations and aliens and stuff like that. There's an old game called Syndicate. I don't know if you remember that or not. Kind of a
I
CRPG.
do. Yeah.
You get to upgrade your troops and you go on missions and stuff like that. But because there's more niche games, and they'll maybe sell 500,000 or a million copies, in their lifetime. That's just AAA doesn't want to do that, and it's sort of the same problem with movie studios, right? They want to spend $500 million making a movie or $5 making a movie. They're not making a lot of mid tier movies
Yeah.
anymore
They all think they're
because
going to get it.
they don't think they're going to be a big hit. Yeah.
I think Unity is going to affect that a lot too. Like so many people are using as Unity like eats every other engine. Like games are going to start looking pretty similar, basically.
Assuming the people who run Unity don't destroy it by being stupid,
Yeah.
as they have recently been.
I mean, because if you're a studio, if you're a small studio, like I'm surprised more. I'm saying this and I don't actually know. You know, my feeling is not as many indies use Unity, but I don't know what their licensing is once
I
you're.
think a lot, probably a lot. Their licensing deal is pretty good.
Yeah.
Unreal Tournament is you can use it until you've made $1 million,
Mm.
and you have to pay 5% to them
Oh, okay.
of everything, including microtransactions. And then Unity was, hey, if your game gets past a certain point, you pay us a one-time licensing fee and you're done.
Hmm.
And but then they changed that, and it became like number of copies sold, and I'm not up to date on it, but they went back and forth. My son wants to be a game developer, so he's using Unity.
Hmm.
I think the most important thing though is like you got to use the engine that works for you. I'm fairly certain Menace is done in Unity. It has that sort of feel to it. My family plays Valheim. Valheim was done in Unity, and but I wish there were more military sci-fi games made for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking back through my Steam library right now, trying to see like, is there something I had forgotten about that, um, like I have a lot of games set in a military setting, but I wouldn't call them or like a military sci-fi setting, but because I love FPSs, I wouldn't necessarily call it military sci-fi that way. Like a game I love a lot is Singularity, which is like a time travel game where you're on this Soviet island, um, digging up their like they have this technology that can move you back and forth in time. And the mechanics in that game were super cool. I got a bunch of sniper games because I like sniper. Like I hate stealth games, but I love sniping. So that that game was fun. Um,
Homeworld.
Yeah,
Homeworld
Homeworld. Yeah.
was, yeah, absolutely 100% military sci-fi. That, it's the best fleet management game I have ever played, and there have been no copies of it. There's no Homeworld like games that have ever come out. It's still the original that came out forever ago is still the best RTS for space battles. With maybe the exception of Sins of Solar Empire, but I think it's better than Sins of Solar Empire, which is really, really good. So if you like long term, sort of a mix of the 4X and RTS is what Sins is, whereas Homeworld is straight up an RTS. But you produce your own fleet and you fly, you have your own cruisers and destroyers and fighters and corvettes and stuff, which is awesome. Homeworld's definitely, and I think they did a remastered
They
version
did a
of it
remaster. Yeah,
recently.
I've got it.
Yeah,
Did you ever
Homeworld's
play
definitely
Valkyria
amazing.
Chronicles? Like that one's more World War One.
What was it called?
Valkyria Chronicles. It's a tactical RPG that, but I wouldn't call it, I would call it alternate history more than SF. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I'm looking
definitely
through my
seems
Steam
like,
library right now too, looking for other ones.
yeah.
I definitely have a lot of space games. Like,
Mhm.
I guess Star Wars Squadrons could be considered military SF because you're flying X-wings and you're doing battles like that. Stellaris is another sort of 4X1 that
Mhm.
is very much like Masters of Orion. Um, I do have a lot of Tom Clancy games, and some of the Ghost Recon games could venture into the military sci-fi realm because of the sort of advanced tech that they used. A lot of games, though, like a lot of movies and TV shows, don't like to show the military much because they don't
Mhm.
want to have like solid leadership. They want to leave it up to the player to be the leader, no
Right.
matter what their rank is. And so it's hard for them to be like, well, this person's in charge. You have to do what they say no matter what. And that's a really hard concept for a lot of people to really wrap their head around.
Mhm.
Not so much if you've been in the military, but for a lot of people who haven't, that is definitely a concept. So you get a lot of like quasi military games where you're sort of in the military.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, like we've actually complained about this a little bit, where you'll have somebody who's, the lieutenant or the upstart, and they just act like they can talk back to a commander. And I feel like sometimes that does come from games, like in movies, obviously, but because you want the player to have agency and be the one who's awesome, that that's going to happen at some point. Or you got to take them out of the command structure and have them be on their own. That way, the player has things to do.
Say hi. Say hi. Say hi. So you're up here for a reason.
I
All right, now go downstairs. The there was some old BattleTech CRPGs too that kind of
Mhm.
qualified. Um, the there's a game called FTL Fast and Light. I don't know if you've played that or not, but it's a strategy crew simulator for a spaceship that's running from an armada and you're in the military.
Mhm.
That one's pretty good. Helldivers 2,
Yeah, I haven't been able
definitely
to play
military
Helldivers.
sci-fi.
Yeah.
You like shooters? You would love
Well, I
Helldivers.
do. I don't play online games. So does it have a campaign yet or no? I mean, same thing with Titanfall. Like I keep
Just
hearing great
kind
things
of a
about
tiny
Titanfall too.
campaign,
Yeah.
but it's just really a tutorial.
I'm also cheap. So like my threshold on a game is like $10. Or if it hits Humble Bundle, then I'll finally get around to playing it. But I'm thinking through other things that you could take from MilSF gaming, especially. Like if depending on where you live, like you don't have the opportunity to go shooting a lot, or you haven't really just had the opportunity to handle. I mean, obviously you're not gonna be able to handle a 203 and go to a grenade launching range or a Mark, 19 or, the kind of things that if a game does it well, gives you the opportunity to, not get the real feel of handling and holding and firing a weapon, but all the things that can go into decisions about weapons, caliber, firing rate, loadout, range, like how heavy, how hard it is for the character just to even carry that weapon and deal with it. M60s are cool until you got to carry one for 5 miles, and yeah. So
Yeah, I was a 60 gunner for a while. I
yeah,
foolishly volunteered. It is very cool, especially in a parade. It makes you look really awesome. But man, that thing is heavy.
yeah. But I think that's the thing you can get from games, and you can play with all that in different ways. And now, it used to be you'd play a game and you had no clue. Like you're just playing it by yourself on your own. There was very little out there as far as like community about like, is this game even good or bad? I don't know. I keep banging my head against it, and maybe it's just a bad game. But now you can go on YouTube and you can watch Let's Plays and you can see other people talk about the game, and that adds to the experience of the game. And you can see, okay, if a person that knows about, X is playing this game and says that this is spot on, then that can be really useful as a, it does build experiences that I think help your writing. It puts you in worlds and environments that really can help your imagination.
It gives you
And
access to other people's
yeah,
imaginations
yeah.
in a way that you might not have, like reading a book from a perspective you've never thought of before.
Hmm.
Writing Grimm's War, obviously it sold, a lot of copies, and it was the Dragon nominee and stuff. One of the biggest things I've done, like personal growth wise, while writing it, is put myself in the perspective of people that I see as the enemy, and try to write them as fairly as possible.
Hmm.
And that's hard, and so it's you can do that with games a lot easier than you can with books, because it's really easy as an author to fall into the trap of, well, this is the way my good guy thinks, which is exactly the way I think.
Hmm.
So therefore everybody else is a mustache twirling villain who is obviously wrong, as opposed to giving them some layers and depths in your story that makes them more, not likable, but more understandable.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier if you can understand your villain's motives than it is if you just be like, okay, it's the villain, he's the bad guy because he's opposing the good guy.
And
And
it's, one of the things I thought Menace did well is like the faction system, because you've got multiple bad guys. So different opponents that have different goals, different skill sets. And I think those are things that help you from getting into that, just like a planet, the monoculture of bad guys. But I think one pitfall of gaming too is like everything's like Cobra and G.I. Joe, right? You've got like just thousands of faceless enemies and you're just mowing them down. And that gets boring after a while. So I think that's always the thing I kind of look for when I'm writing. Like, am I just treating these guys like Cobra? Like, I need to like slow this down or like spend more time with the guys that I'm whacking. Like, if I find whacking, I mean, if I find that I'm saying the same thing over and over again, like the words I'm using to describe the enemies, I'm probably doing a little too much of that. I need to think more about what the character's doing as opposed to just cutting grass.
and you can also flip that on its head, where like I wrote a scene today where the ship they're trying to hide and they think they've done this really great job, but they get detected and they're like, oh no, the guy on that enemy ship, he must just be like a wizard with gravity, because
Mhm.
they have this on my ship, they have this really great guy who mans the gravity station. His name is Tafiti. He's Maori, and he's got ears like a hawk, and and then I cut perspective to the other ship, and it's like this 18-year-old private, who a seaman, who's like just terrified of everybody who's talking to him, and just got lucky.
Got lucky. Yeah, but I mean that's the kind of thing you can do in that scenario. So I mean, MILSF sets that up so you can play with those kind of things. And I mean, it sounds like that was a training mission. Like that's even a thing. I mean, was that a training mission or was that 18? Was
No,
that
no,
find a bad guy?
it was the in the spoiler alert, but the Caliphate's losing the war, and so they're digging rock bottom for people to man the ships and fight the
Mhm.
front line and stuff like that. And it was funny is also we lose sight of the fact that the because when I was in the army, the drill sergeants, I was just like, oh, they're a bunch of angry old men, and like 27 or 28 years old, and we lose sight of the fact that our wars are fought by 18 and 19-year-olds.
Right.
And so that movie we were talking about, was it War Machine with Alan
Oh,
Richardson?
yeah.
Richmond?
Yeah.
Looks
He's
really
like
cool. Army Rangers versus aliens or
like
Terminators or whatever it
Mac
is.
or
Look
whatever. Yeah.
great. He's almost 40. He
He's
would not
way
be a
too old.
Ranger.
And then the scene with the Sergeant Major and the Sergeant Major's like 70.
Yeah, it's just like I'm just like, these are not the ages of these people. These are the ages of actors who can portray these people in a believable way. Because
Yeah.
spoiler alert, 25-year-old men do not know how to act. They suck at acting. It takes them to get into their late 30s before they become good actors and have on-screen charisma, with some rare exceptions. So what's funny is they always cast soldiers higher, older,
Mhm.
but they're not. They're 18 and 19-year-old kids. The pilots, the gritty, Air Force or Navy and Air Force pilots. in movies are always in their 40s. And like, no, they're like done when they're 31. You know what I mean? Like they start moving on to administrative or command structure stuff. By the time they're 40, their vision's going. You're not flying combat missions anymore. You can't take the stress of the G's,
Back's hurting.
stuff like that. Your back's hurting. Yeah. I mean, Jacob's 42 in against all odds, and he's already, or in the last book, and he's already getting pressure to do the rejuve treatment because everything hurts, but you can only do the rejuve treatment once. So it's like, do I do it now or do I wait until I absolutely have to do it? So it's like, and you can do that with books and games and movies, and you can get really in depth on the people who are fighting the wars in a way that, well, at least with books and games, I feel like you can't really do with movies too much.
Yeah. I will say I always enjoy the trope of like the old guy that joins basic training, even though old in this context might be, 35, but because that always sets up a fun, you know, whatever, like character interaction with the young guys and then the older guy.
The Fat Electrician has a fabulous YouTube show about World War about history in general, but specifically about the military. And he did an episode on this unit in World War II that was exclusively old men. The oldest guy in the unit was 50, I think. The average age was 32, and they were like, pound for pound, kill for kill. They got more kills in the Pacific Theater of Operations than any other infantry unit. They were so successful as an army unit that the Marines made them honorary Marines. Which, if you know anything about the Marines, that's a big deal. I mean, like, they had an average. There was this one giant battle where they had an average kill rate of 220 Japanese for every guy they lost.
Well, what did he say? I mean, what was the secret sauce there? I mean, it can't just be.
They recruited a bunch of older guys who were really passionate about defending America, had already had experience with guns. Some of them were already veterans. And the idea is like, well, let's give guile and determination a chance as opposed to just, young and lots of energy.
Right.
And so these guys found ways to fight that they had to find alternative ways to fight because they just couldn't stand in there in the trenches and duke it out, And it was really interesting. I'd highly recommend it. I'll try to link it when I put the video up. That Electrician's kind of amazing in that way. He tells really interesting stories about history. Bringing it back to video games, there's a lot of video games that have, like, Titanfall 2 has absolutely military sci-fi. It has a campaign. I cannot recommend that game enough. It is so good. It has a powerful ending. At no point in that game do they muff it up. It is solid 100%, 10 out of 10, beginning to end. And you can get it for like $5, most days. I mean, it's usually on sale for something. And it is and it's a mech/infantry game, and it's just one of the best games story-wise to come out in the last 20 years. So Titanfall 2 for sure. So that puts us at Mass Effect, Titanfall 2, Mech Warrior. For strategy games, things like Masters of Orion and Stellaris, where you control military units. Helldivers 2 I consider that military sci-fi because it's sci-fi and it's military. There's a couple of Starship Troopers RTSs that I really like. What's the name of that one that I've been playing, or was playing anyways? My ADHD is, I get about 20 hours into a video game, and I usually I've had fun.
I play games for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, Starship Troopers Terran Command is one that's really good. I go back to it once in a while. There are some games that I will Dyson Sphere Project. I've sunk like 1,000 hours into that game. RimWorld's another one because it's different enough that I don't feel like I get the same loop over and over again. But what's funny is we wanted to talk about military sci-fi games, and I started looking through my game list, and I'm like, I own a lot of games. I have like 300 games in my Steam account. They're not a lot. There's one called Mechabellum that I play. That's pretty good. It's online, but the matches are like 15 minutes, and it's a strategy game where it's an auto battler where you put down your forces and they put down their forces, and every turn you get more forces to put down.
Oh, okay.
And you build up to the point until one
almost
side.
Like a card building game, almost.
Yeah, like a deck building game.
Yeah.
And that one's pretty good. And it's your mechs, and you're on alien worlds, and you have a lot of like resource management you have to do. So that one's pretty good.
Yeah, I just
But
even search
yeah,
Steam for military science fiction and nothing comes up. So
yeah, yes.
I'm surprised that's not tagged. Like that should bring up Menace, you would think.
You think that that should be a tag? I wonder if I can make a tag.
Yeah.
Um, but the video games like, like movies, video games tend to have a lot stronger fantasy element than science fiction element. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, there'll be science fictions and movies are a dime a dozen, but real science fiction is pretty rare. Like science fiction is a setting, yeah, everywhere. But actual science fiction, that makes you think about the nature of humanity and technology and stuff like that, pretty rare.
Well, in a
However,
game, if you haven't played Kerbal Space Program and you want to learn about orbital mechanics, I mean, Kerbal Space Program really lets you understand how hard it is to get things into orbit.
that game is so hard.
Yeah.
It looks funny. It looks cute because the Kerbals. Game is so stinking hard. I
Yeah.
was never able to get anything off the ground. They kept exploding,
Yeah.
which tracks. See what else do I got here? See if we go to Steam and we just put in like military. I wonder if there's military games come up. Yeah.
I mean, one game that was actually I didn't have time to fire it up and play with it again, but America's Army was a game that the Army developed back in like
Back in the
let's
day,
see 2002,
something
and it
like that.
actually
Yeah.
was well received. And the whole idea was that it could introduce like players to how the Army works. And so it was like basically like a basic training light. Um, you got into like I don't know, it just walked you through like all the things that would help you be successful in basic training, and then got into some squad based stuff. And I think people criticize it for that, but that seemed like a really if they had iterated on that more, that could have been really cool, I think.
They got accused of using it as a recruiting tool,
Well,
and it
it is.
was.
What is it?
I mean, they were lying about it. And it was actually a pretty good shooter. I think
Right.
they continue to have tournaments in it up until a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the shooter mechanics of it were really solid. I know a lot of the recon drones that the military uses now are based on you use a cell phone like device to fly the
Mhm.
drone. And funny enough, Call of Duty, before there were cell phone like devices, operating drones in the Army, Call of Duty had a cell phone game where when you took over the drone, you turned your phone sideways and you flew the drone with your cell phone with
Mhm.
controls that were identical to the one that came out in the Army. And the idea being is you wouldn't have to train anybody; they'd already know how to use it.
Right.
And
Right. Well,
it worked. Yeah, it worked. Because the kids will spend more time playing video games than they will do anything else. So if you can teach them something while they're doing it, great.
I mean, it just makes sense for heads up displays. And as those things become more common, they're going to be like games because the people making those systems will have played games and they'll know what they liked or didn't like and what quality of life looks like and what reticles should look like to make sense. And I mean, I was part of a test with Patriot where we were testing different versions of the interface. And one of the things people kept saying was like, it should be color, it should be color. And I mean, this was way back in the day, but color in that when you're trying to track an air battle, and I'm saying this, it may be color now, I don't know, but when you're trying to track everything on the airspace and what's happening and like
Color's bad.
it's hard. Like there's just so much stuff that's there that
Even in the F-22, from what
yeah.
I've seen, the displays are still that green
Hmm.
thing because, like, if you've got 19 different colors going on, your brain just can't process them, and you got to be able to look at a screen at a glance
Right.
and know what's going on. It's why, like, when I'm describing the technology in Grimms War, it's like they're not like holographic screens and using VR goggles to navigate it, because at the end of the day, you have seconds count. You don't need to be swiping through screens trying to find the thing that you
No.
need. And if it's dark, if you've lost power, the guy next to you, exploded and there's blood all over your console, having a switch to flip or a button to push makes way more sense than a touch screen that, will go out of, won't be able to be used the moment it gets cracked,
Hmm.
and because
Well,
I
and
got
we're coming back
criticism of
around.
that.
Like car makers are coming back to dials and knobs, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I got some criticism on that. Like, your technology is not very advanced. I'm like, well, it is advanced, but what you're seeing is the interface, and I'm coming at it from a perspective of a soldier, where you've got to be able to teach somebody to use this in 60 days proficiently, with one arm, blood coming out of their eyes. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to, you can't just have like super advanced technology for the interface.
Well, and we've talked about that. Like you could over design it to where it's just boring, and that doesn't make for a fun story. So what can you do to make it interesting so the characters are interacting with the world in a way that's not just them? I mean, you could just plug a shunt in their brain and have them sit there, right? And nobody wants to watch that.
A
So
little shockwave passes through them,
yeah.
and sorry, she's being so loud. She's
This
not
is
even
how
loud.
for everybody who might be like, this is noise, like imagine how much work Jeff is getting done while this is happening. And this is how he still manages to get everything done. Um, it's pretty amazing to me. So that's a little
Thanks,
grace, I
buddy.
think, is valuable here. So
The Yeah, well, and speaking of the noise, I think my kids have reached their limit, so we should probably wrap this up. So, I mean, in conclusion, after you like and subscribe and share, Menace, fantastic. Mass Effect, fantastic.
yeah,
Um, what is your top two recommendations, James?
I'm also gonna say Mass Effect, and I'm going to yeah, I'll just say, I mean, check out Menace. That was really cool as well. I'm excited to dig more into that game. As like just a recent I mean, I love all the Alien tech. Like I think you can't go wrong with Alien, but yeah,
Dark Descent's really a good game.
yeah.
It really is. Yeah, and they had a good spin on the squad based.
Hmm.
With the way they did it, I thought that was pretty neat.
Yep. All right. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out with us and let us know what games you like to play. Check us out in the Discord, and we've got lots of conversation happening over there about the same thing. I'm sure we missed something, so please let us know because I'm always looking for. I was just looking at Titanfall 2. I don't have it, so I should get that. So
Yeah, definitely Titanfall 2. And if
yeah,
you're new to this channel and you have no idea who we are, go on Amazon, type in our names, Jeffrey H. Haskell, James A. Aaron, and you'll find some books by us. Please feel free to buy them.
yep.
All of
We
them.
got we got links in the notes too. So, all right. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys later. Yep. Bye.